Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Serena.
And I'm James.
And today we are answering your questions. This is our Ask Me Anything form where we take your questions that you have been brave enough to offer up and we answer them here on our channel so that we can help serve more people that may have the same question. So if you are interested in asking a question and having it answered for free here on our channel, please check the link down below. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Help us reach more people. And today we have a very beautifully specific question. A lot of times we don't always end up answering the questions on here because they tend to be either really long or a bit vague or really almost too specific to their scenario. So it's like you almost have to know the person better in order to give a proper answer, you know? But this question is amazing. So we can definitely answer it.
I think.
So this question is from Christopher. And you guys, my laptop is here, so I'm just reading it off of my laptop.
Thanks, Chris.
So when you were leaving South Africa and going home to family and realizing that you needed to commit to yourself, when was the moment that you realized that you chose to be with James, and what did that moment look like? And for him as well. What was that moment like when you made the choice to reach out to each other, and who went first? Okay. So it's funny because in another video that I made not too long ago, I actually talk somewhat about this, and maybe this is a extension from that video, or like a, what do you want to call it? Maybe this is like a question that came from this person watching this video. But either way, so for me, I remember exactly where I was and what was happening when I had this like realization. And so as you guys know, I went home. I was supposed to meet up with James. I ended up, changing that like very last minute and going home instead back to the United States. And I knew like I needed to choose myself for once. Like I knew like, okay, I had been with other men in relationships, like in long-term relationships for the last like 6 to 8 years of my life at this point. And I was like, never once have I actually like chosen to be alone and be with myself and process those relationship endings. I just kind of went one into the next, into the next. And that was all divinely guided. There wasn't any mistake in that, but there was repercussions of doing that. So this was a big one for me. This was a big turning point in my self-love journey, like realizing, okay, Serena, you need to choose yourself first. And that by actually doing that, you are actually also choosing James. Because if I don't choose the wholeness of myself, then I'm not bringing anything to the relationship, right? So like I said, I remember exactly where I was. I was lying on the floor of my dad's house with the fireplace on. It was winter time. I was lying on the floor with my feet up by the fire like I do here in our house. And I was like laying there. It was very late at night. Like everyone else was asleep. The TV was off. And I just had this like aha moment. And I was like, oh my God. And if you guys don't know, backstory is my dad cheated on my mom when I was about 13 years old. So my entire life, I've kind of been running away from this possibility, right? This possibility of infidelity, even running away from it so far as to want to be in an open relationship so that nobody could ever cheat on me, right? Like that was kind of, in some ways, the mentality that I approached my open relationship was like, well, if I let them do it, then it's not them betraying me, but it was me betraying myself. So that being said, the moment I knew I needed to commit to James was like a radical awakening, like aha moment where I realized, oh my God, it's not about who you're with. It's not about whether you're in an open relationship, whether you're in a monogamous relationship. It's about consciously choosing. You know, if I choose to be with somebody, then I need to choose to be with them, knowing that that temptation may come up again at some point, right? Like there might be that temptation. And it's about choosing in that moment when it comes up to actually decide, okay, where do my loyalties lie, right? And like, how can I be the best partner I can be in that moment? And what does it look like? I think a lot of people think in order to bring newness to the relationship, like there's either the element of bringing in another person into the relationship, right, and going like the open relationship route, or whatever that is. But I believe that there's actually also a deepening of the relationship when that's an option and you don't choose it, right? Like, you could choose to cheat on your partner, right? You could choose to ask them to open the relationship. You could choose all of these different avenues, right? Um, but when you know all of those are an option to you and you choose to rather consciously be with this person regardless of your desires, and I kind of have an awakening on this recently as well, where I kind of realized that in order to get the person, you have to have self-love. But in order to keep them, you have to have self-sacrifice. And I don't mean self-sacrifice in terms of like not doing what you want, or self-sacrifice in terms of, like hurting yourself. What I mean is like letting go of your egoic nature, sacrificing your ego, that part of yourself, the part of your ego that wants to destroy things, that wants to sabotage things, that wants to hurt other people, that isn't true, or it doesn't have integrity or purity. And that's what I mean by self-sacrifice. It means to let go of that part of yourself. And so for me, it was a moment that I had of an awakening when I was in separation, knowing that my dad did not choose my mom or their marriage in that moment of infidelity, right? He did not choose it, but he also did not choose it choose it consciously, right? Like, this is where it's really interesting, because you can cheat on someone out of program. You can cheat out of somebody out of subconscious desire, right? You can be faithful to somebody out of a program. You can be, like, you can practice both unconsciously. And so the point is the conscious choice. Like, I choose you, even when this is happening, even when I want to do this other thing, even when this is coming up, I'm still choosing you. And by doing that in the twin flame dynamic, I have found that in that choosing that person, I'm also choosing myself, because I'm choosing a deeper, more dimensional aspect of myself. So I hope that makes sense. It's very it's very energetic and subtle in nature. But there was another question here. And that other question was, what did that moment look like for you?
When I first chose to choose you?
Yeah.
I can't pinpoint exactly. There's a few moments where I was kind of like, this person is the person, and it had multiple different levels. I mean, I still remember after first meeting you, obviously we had a very instant connection. I still very, very clearly remember the very first time I ever saw you. I was sitting in one of those little chairs right in front of the kitchen, looked to my right towards where the self-service kitchen was, and you walked out in those really nice red tights.
That wasn't the first time you saw me.
That was the first time I saw you.
No, we saw each other the first night that I was there.
That's the first time I remember seeing you.
See this?
I don't know. That's the first time
we had
I
a whole
recall
conversation
it. I know, but
that
I
night
still
at the
believe that was the first time I saw you. Doesn't matter. Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
We live in different realms, okay?
Clearly.
But I remember after that, when you contacted me and they come back to the Transky, when we spent those couple of days together, I remember after you left, and I just had this. That very day, actually, because I was doing a beach day as well, you had left. And fortunately, I had some really incredible ladies who I was busy teaching to surf, who obviously had been around us during that time as well, who I was able to open up to and really have like real conversations with. And there was I just felt like there was a part of me that was missing when you had left, and it really sucked, because at that point as well, I knew the whole situation where you're going back to and all the rest, and it was very difficult to kind of wrap my head around and actually understand. And I remember as we kind of carried on talking through WhatsApp and that together, after that period, I remember I was speaking to one of my very close friends, is now a very close friend of yours as well. and saying like, I don't understand like how I can feel this way about this person. Like it doesn't make sense. Like she has absolutely blown me out the water. I was stumped. I didn't know what to like, how to do anything anymore. Like, you know, no one else looked interesting at that point. It's kind of people came in and I was like, put in a face because I was in the backpackers and did my thing, but no one really intrigued me the same way that you had. And then, of course, then we went through our whole stage where you were meant to come, then you didn't, then you went back home, and obviously there was a bit of hurt in that as well because there was that feeling like I really wanted you to be there, but I also understood where you're coming from because I had been through that whole situation a few years prior. Um, and then I remember when we were having that moment when you were talking about wanting to have a call to book your ticket so we could do it together and going through that whole moment as well. That also then made me feel like this is like something that I hadn't really been a part of before. Then multiple times as we were together, there were moments where I was like, that doesn't make sense, but how? Like I can't not have you around. Um, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's small things. Sometimes I see you doing things, and it's simple things like you could be putting butter on toast, for instance, and I'm just like, ah. And I don't know that there's just been so many moments where I've just felt this connection where I'm like, there is no one else but you, and that is all I actually really want. And this is not just me being cheesy. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very very
I
good
actually picked
question.
it this time.
It wasn't me. It's a very good question, a very difficult one to answer, but a particular time and place for me, I don't have a time and place. For me, it was just literally a multitude of
Many
different
moments.
different moments and different things. And even when we were in separation, when you're in the States, or even actually when you're still on your trip and I was in the Transkei and we're sending voice notes and long messages, and there were just so many times where the way that we communicated just, it was just like, hello, are you seeing this? Do you notice how you're feeling at the moment? You're feeling something. So yeah, for me, it was definitely multiple moments that really made me. It was almost like something was kicking me, but like, hey, wake up! Hey, wake up! Hey, don't forget, by the way. And yeah, that's kind of how that felt for me.
Yeah. I wanted to also touch on, because part of this question was who went first, like when we made the choice to reach out with each other. So I do want to touch on that, but before we do, you had brought up something that we briefly chatted about, which was when I booked the ticket to come back to see you, right? So if you guys don't know, brief synopsis, we were separated for about 5 to 6 months. And then I also had a very strong aha moment when this time came, because up until this point in relationships, I was used to either being incredibly codependent on a partner or incredibly independent. And so when James actually gave me the full reign, he said, just pick a date, just choose when you want to come, and I'll be there. I don't even care.
As long as you come in this time.
And I remember being like, I could easily do it like that. I could easily be like, okay, this is when I'm coming, now come get me, and like, do the whole thing by myself. Yeah. But I also remember having this really strong awakening moment saying like, no, we need to do this as a partnership. Like we need to choose together when we're coming back together. And so we even got on like a whole separate video call to decide the date and book the ticket together. Which I think was really interesting, because for me it was like, no, I'm committing to union even before we were back together physically. Like my commitment to you was like, okay, we will consider each other when we are making these decisions, right? And like the best thing I could ever do as a partner is like give you a choice and like consider you in my decisions, and not just act like up until that point, because I was recovering from narcissistic abuse, I was really solely focused on myself and my healing. And this was kind of the beginning of a new cycle where I was like, no, now I'm ready to be a partner again. I'm ready to consider somebody else and their thoughts and needs and emotions and feelings, and really start becoming a partner. Now, the other part of this question was who reached out to who first. And I think this is where we have, we have the most controversy surrounding our twin flame status. Like people will say, because of this, we are not twin flames. Obviously, that's all just projection, because whether we are or not doesn't really matter, right?
We believe that we are.
It's our story, so we get to tell it as we see it. But that being said, in terms of like who decided or who went first when it meant to like contacting each other, the story goes that I didn't come back to see James. I decided rather to go home. So we didn't talk for maybe a couple days to a week.
Yeah.
I sent you a message explaining like how sorry I was, and like I knew that I had hurt you, and that, because I was even able to do that, I wasn't in a safe place where I would be able to consider you or treat you as a partner. Like I needed to just really be selfish at this time. And, so I sent you a whole long message about how sorry I was, and, how much I truly loved and cared for you, and, just all of these things, right? And I don't know if there was maybe a few days in between you getting that message to you responding to it. Can you remember?
Um, I, I think there might have been like a day or two. I don't know if it was because there was a problem with signal where I was, or if I was just busy, or because I wasn't during the point my phone broke either, because that was another whole thing on top of that. um, I think that was actually earlier. I think it took me like a day or two just because of, signal and everything else, and as well just to really process what you had sent to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so I'm thinking through the whole timeline in my mind. So I think for us, like we never really had that no contact phase. Like our no contact phases, like you were said, was when your phone broke, or when you didn't have power, or when I didn't have Wi-Fi. Like they were short bursts of time, like maybe 3-4 days max, and then we would be back in contact again. Keeping in mind that we did have about an 8-hour time difference, so most of the time we sent voice messages or voice notes to each other, like on the other every other day schedule. Like it would be
Yeah.
like your nighttime, my daytime, and then like, so we didn't have this long gap of no contact where a lot of twin flames do have that,
Mm.
and it is necessary for their story. Just wasn't necessary for our story because we had such a big gap of time between the two of us. And then we also had these kind of what I like to call universe sanctioned no contacts,
Mm.
where it was kind of outside of both of our controls. But I don't believe we really had a time where it was like one of us reached out or the other one reached out. I would say I reached out first because I knew I had hurt you. So I felt like I need to apologize for that. But then also you reached out pretty close right after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only time we can really look at to who reached out to who first was when you stalked me on Instagram.
You always like to bring that up.
What can I say? I think if we have to try go back and try figure out who contacted who first, the only time that really jumps out to me, because kind of after that point it was kind of back
Back
and
and
forth.
forth, yeah.
There wasn't really much. I mean, there's maybe at one point there was like that week when we didn't talk after you kind of said you weren't going to come back, and then there was hurt and all the rest, and that all kind of went by. But I think the only point that we can go back to, we can say who contacted who first, would have been you contacting me through Instagram after the first time we had met.
Yeah, which is out of, just for reference, this is out of the context of what this question is asking. Because
Yeah.
this question is really asking, um, when we were ready to come back together, who initiated? That's what that question's really asking. And we don't really have a clarity for that because we were in and out of conversation our entire separation. So when we were ready to come back together, like in union, I feel like it came from both of us. Like it was like
Yeah.
it was a joint mutual decision. We didn't have that like, I mean, I'm sure part of it was on me because I kind of had to decide, okay, I'm ready to come back to South Africa now. So
Yeah.
part of that could have been on me, but I shifted it off of me and put it on us.
I mean, yeah, I think during that whole period, we obviously we were talking about like if you're going to come back here, or if I was potentially going to come to you,
Or if we
and
were going to meet somewhere else.
oh yeah,
Remember, we had
meeting.
talked about that.
Yeah, we had talked about that,
Mexico, I
something like
remember,
that.
yeah.
I think as far as initiating to you coming here, that was definitely you. You had made that decision like I would like to come back, and then from there we decided to choose everything together.
Yeah.
But I think that initially you had potentially sparked that direction. You're like, okay, I'm now ready. I want to come to you
Yeah.
because you wanted to come back to South Africa.
Yeah. And I think part of that, you guys, was with, before this video gets too long, part of that was because I had never actually been to your hometown before. When I met
You've
you,
been close.
you weren't living
Where
where we are now. Yeah. So for me, it was like, okay, I need to, if this is going to be a thing, I need to see if I even like it there, so like that was really in the forefront of my brain, was like, practically speaking, like I knew I didn't want to live where you were working, where I had met you. And that's why you moved away from there and you moved back to your hometown. And then, which is a little bit crazy if you think about it from like a normal person human lens, the fact that you left there because I said I didn't want to live there is pretty, that's a pretty big leap to make.
I mean, for sure. At the same time, my plan of being there was never long term.
It was to find your soulmate and move on.
Well, I mean, did I joke about, oh, it'll be so great to find the person I'm going to marry one day? Yes, I made that joke plenty of times. The friends who sent me there and gave me the contact to work there, that's how they met.
I know.
I know you know. They might not know. So obviously I was like, oh, that would be great, but that was never my intention. My intention was to go and do something that was purely for me and to get myself out of a bit of a rut that I had gotten into. Because obviously I'd gone through my whole breakup and that, and I kind of got stuck in one job, but now life was kind of like ticking on, but nothing was coming of it, and it was kind of just becoming a bit mundane and like
monotonous.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I still had fun, I still surfed, I still did all my things I normally did and all that, but there was almost no joy left in a lot of things. It was kind of just like, it's cool, so I'll just do it. So, in some ways, yes, maybe it is a bit crazy that I just decided to up and leave from there. I'm sure my ex bosses weren't super, super stoked on it, but they were very understanding because obviously I explained to them my whole situation while I was doing what I was doing. Um, but yeah, it was very much, I knew that was going to come to a close at some point, and the fact that you wanted to come back here, I mean, was a bonus in a lot of ways because I mean, obviously, I know the area.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. So that's our story. Thank you again so much for asking the question. Again, 22 minutes. The other video we filmed was 22 minutes also. So thank you so much for asking that question. We really, really appreciate it. And if you have any other questions, please put them down below. And we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for being here today. Big love.
Bye.
Bye.